In today's video, I will be facing off against the GM Renier Gonzalez. And no chess YouTube, I'm not joking. This actually happened. I actually just challenged a Grandmaster in online chess for the very first time. And in this video, I will be breaking down the entire game, start to finish, all 52 moves, showing you where I went right, my mistakes, what I should have done differently, and so on, all with the goal of helping you guys play better online chess. All right, in the game, white opens 1c4, the English, and I go e5, the king's English, fighting for the center of the board. Now here, white goes g3, intending a very fast bishop g2. This is a very common idea for white here, and now black has many different ideas, but perhaps the two main ideas are going knight f6 and then d5, fighting for the center, or knight f6 and then c6, intending d5. And in the game, I did go for the latter option. So knight f6, bishop g2, and then c6, intending a fast d5. Now here, white goes d4, a good move, again, fighting for the center. And here, black has a couple of main options, at least that's my understanding. Black can take on d4, or go e4, fighting for a space advantage. Now, e takes is probably the safer move, but e4 might be a little more ambitious, as black's pawn structure here could be an asset or a liability depending on how the game progresses. So I go e4 here, gaining space. Now here, white's got a lot of different ideas. For example, d5, queen to a4, f3, knight c3, and so on are all playable, but in the game, white goes for maybe the strongest and trickiest move here. That is just bishop g5. Now, what's the idea here? Let's go through our checks, captures, and attacks. Is white threatening anything? Well, he's pinning this knight on f6 to the queen on d8. Therefore, the knight cannot defend this pawn on e4, and therefore, white's threat is simply bishop takes e4 or bishop takes f6, and then bishop takes e4, either way, winning the pawn on the e4 square. So that pawn must be defended here. Now, how can you do it as black? Well, there are two main ways. You can go d5 immediately, or perhaps you can insert the check on b4, and that is what I did in the game. So, bishop b4 hits the king. Here, white can technically go king f1, and it's not as bad as it looks, but instead, in the game, knight c3 was played. Now, this knight is being pinned to the king. It cannot threaten the pawn on e4. However, again, white can simply take with the bishop, and I can't recapture with the knight as that knight is pinned. Therefore, I must defend it again, and in the game, I do that with the move d5. Now here, white, Grandmaster Renier Gonzalez plays a very strong move, queen to b3. Now, what's the threat here? Well, he's attacking the bishop on b4. Therefore, I must defend it somehow. So what are my options here? Well, you could go something like a5 or queen to d6 and so on. Actually, queen d6 would be terrible, as white would go c5, hitting the queen, so queen e7 might be playable. But instead here, I capture on c3 immediately. I don't want to mess around with these discovered attacks and so on. So, bishop takes, and here white has a choice. In the game, he took with the queen. Queen takes, maintaining the integrity of his pawn structure, a solid idea. Instead, if white went b takes, my idea here was simply knight b d7, supporting this knight on f6. And therefore, if white took on d5, I take back. And then if he tries to take on f6, I simply recapture with the knight, and I'm doing just fine here, just swimmingly. But instead, queen takes played in the game, and now I simply castle. And so far, I'm doing pretty well according to the engine. The game is roughly level. I might even have a small advantage here. And here, white goes for the move b3. Now, this move to me looks a little bit slow. Black isn't really threatening d takes c4. So b3 has two main ideas. First of all, supporting c4. Second of all, if white had a bishop on, say, c1, then it may go to, say, b2 or a3. But neither of those ideas are very important here. This pawn on c4 is not being threatened. The queen defends it, and the bishop is not on c1. It's on g5. Therefore, b3 is kind of a wasted tempo. Now, here as black, I wasn't really sure what to do. It's not quite the middle game, but the opening phase of the game is mostly over. I am castled, and now I have to figure out, number one, how do I complete development? How do I get all of these queenside pieces into the game? And number two, what is my plan? Where do I want to attack, and so on? Now, in the game, I started h6. Not a bad idea at all. Black took on took here. I took back on f6, and now white goes e3. Basically intending knight to e2 and then castles. I assume that is white's plan here, or at least in the game I assumed. But still, I'm doing pretty good overall in this game. Now, what should black be doing in this position? Well, based on the pawn structure, it's sort of a reversed French defense pawn structure where black has the pawn on the e4 square. Normally in the French, white has his king's pawn further advanced, but here's black doing so. And based on this, the pawns are pointing in this direction, and therefore I should be thinking about attacking on the king side, potentially with moves like h5, h4, maybe even bring out the g pawn at some point. Although technically I can try to gain space on the queen side as well later. It all depends. Now here, what should black really be doing? Well, moves like h5 are playable. Bishop g4 comes to mind. Maybe knight d7, trying to find a better square for the knight. Maybe swapping out to, say, f6 later. Instead, in the game, I go rook to e8. Now, rook e8 is not the strongest move in the world. It's a decent square for the rook, but it's not exactly benefiting black in terms of the attack. Now, white goes h3, guarding g4, a good move, stopping bishop g4 ideas from black, and that was an important idea that I probably should have pursued earlier. Now, here I go bishop f5, trying to develop. Again, I'm not really sure what my plan is yet. I don't see anything concrete that I can attack. Therefore, my default plan is trying to bring out these pieces on the queen side, the bishop, the knight, and the rook. So, bishop f5, maybe intending queen to e6, threatening this pawn on h3. That could be my idea here. Now, white goes knight e2. I go knight d7, just developing. White goes rook to c1, and I go rook a to c8, trying to put my queen opposite white's queen on c3. So far, I'm having a little bit of a hard time finding a concrete plan, and I'm just trying to finish development. Now, at this point, the opening phase of the game, at least for me, is officially over. Every single piece is developed, and therefore, I have to find some sort of plan. And again, attacking on the king side, potentially with a pawn storm, should be the right idea. Now here, white, his best move, believe it or not, is just castles, just castling his king, and at this point, white would have a pretty sizable edge. From here, I might want to go, say, queen d8, intending knight f6, and so on, trying to regroup my pieces, maybe queen d7 later. But instead of all this, here, in this position, white plays the move c5. Now, if you're a beginner or even an intermediate, try to figure out why this move right here is not really a good idea for white. It looks logical at first glance. White is gaining space on the queen side where he is stronger, but it turns out this move right here really throws away white's advantage and gives me a very easy time, at least the next few moves. And here, my idea is simple. b6, attacking the base of the pawn chain. And here's why this is so good. First of all, the pawn attacks this pawn, but also the knight. Therefore, if I take on c5, white has to recapture with this pawn, capturing away from the center, and that will be good for black. So white here is sort of forced to go b4, defending that pawn, but now I can trade on c5 anyway, which I did in the game. And again, if white takes with the d pawn, that's good for me. He's capturing away from the center. Instead, white takes with the b pawn, b takes, and now here, with this b file now being opened up, my plan is simple. Seize control of the b file literally as soon as possible. So, rook b8, white castles, and now how should I proceed in this position? Well, here, black has a couple of ideas. First of all, you can try to double rooks on the b file. Now, this is not necessarily the best idea here, and the reason for that is simple. On this side of the board, white has the space advantage. This is where white is going to press. It's going to be very, very hard for me to attack on this side of the board. Therefore, I probably should be attacking on the king side here. And here, according to the computer, the right way for black starts with the move h5. Here's the main line here. h5, queen to a5, and here the engine says the move g5, believe it or not, giving up this pawn on a7 is the way to go. Sort of in the spirit of the king's Indian defense, where black's attacking on the king side and sometimes giving up material on the queen side. And if white takes here, the move for black is queen to e6, threatening h3. And here, white has a very hard time. If he goes, say, h4, I can take that pawn, open up the g file, maybe go, say, king to h7, rook g8, and so on, lining up threats on the king side. And beyond that, if he doesn't do that, the bishop and the queen battery here is very, very menacing. So this would have been the strongest idea, but that is why I am not a grandmaster, at least not yet. Anyways, in the game, I went for the other idea, rook b5. So there is an idea here. I'm trying to double up rooks on the b file. However, this sort of does play into white's hands. And here, white can just go, say, rook b1, trying to trade rooks, or even g4, pushing back this bishop. That would also be good for white. Instead, in the game, white goes a4, And this move right here is a little bit weak. I just drop back, rook b7. My plan is still the same. Rook e to b8, doubling up rooks, trying to stop white from ever seizing control of this file. Now white goes rook b1, a good move. I go rook e to b8. Again, that is my plan. White trades rooks. I trade back. And so far, I'm still doing pretty okay in this game, despite playing a Grandmaster. All right, white. What's his idea? Queen to c2. He's trying to go rook b1, trying to fight for control of the b file. And again, if white gets control of the b file, he's probably going to win this pawn. He's probably going to win this pawn. And he's probably going to win the game. So I can't allow that. But I also have to find some way to attack on the king side. I can't just sit around and wait. So what do? Queen d8, the best move. What's my idea? Very simple. Queen to b1, trying to dominate this file. White goes rook b1, and here I go queen to b8. Now, if white trades rooks, if he trades rooks like that, rook takes, queen takes, then I would be doing okay, as it's pretty hard for white to ever seize control of the file with his queen. If he ever does do it, let's say for example, rook takes, queen takes, I don't know, knight c3, intending queen to b1. Even if that happens, I can always trade queens, and white really can't make use of the open b file that much. So I would probably be okay. What does white do instead? Just knight c3 immediately, a good move. And here white's only wasted 10 seconds on the clock so far. It is a 3+2 game, meaning white gets meaning both sides get 2 more seconds every time they can move. So it is you know, he spent more than 10 seconds so far in this game, but still very impressive. All right, here. What should I be doing? Well, the best move here is likely just rook b4, immediately jumping up with the rook and pressuring this pawn right here, and then trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Now, instead of that here, I go a5, and this move here is a massive weakening move. You always want to be careful about moving pawns on the same side of the board that you're defending on. And here I am defending on the queen side, and this move right here, it kind of just makes this pawn a weakness. Now, my idea in the game was I wanted to go rook b4 with the rook supported, but it turns out that was just completely unnecessary. I didn't have to do that. I could have just gone rook b4 immediately and then been fine. But anyways, a5 played in the game. Again, it's why Renier Gonzalez is a GM and I'm not. So a5 played in the game. White goes bishop f1, a good move, trying to reroute this bishop. Of course, it's not doing anything on this diagonal. Therefore, it goes back to f1, where it does control a lot of squares here. Now, I go rook b4. That is my idea. White goes king g2. And here, there really isn't anything I can do on the queen side. If I sit around and wait, white is going to slowly but surely build up here. Therefore, I kind of thought I have to attack on the king side here. Now, it's the right idea, but it's a little bit too late. Now, here, the best move for black is just knight f6, finding a better square for the knight. Instead, I go h5, starting sort of the alpha zero attack here and stopping g4 ideas from white. Not a terrible idea. White goes bishop e2, pressuring the pawn, a good move. And now I can go g6, but that just didn't look that good to me. So instead, h4 was played in the game. White goes g4, a good move, driving back the bishop. And here, I do not want to go bishop g6. If I did that, this bishop will effectively not be doing anything in the game. It's just defending the pawn on e4. And it doesn't really help the attack at all. So instead, bishop e4 played in the game, trying to keep it still lining up with these pawns on the king side. Maybe later in the game, there might be some sort of sacrificial idea. Who knows? All right, white. Bishop d1, a decent move. So far, neither side can really make progress here. And in this position, the best plan for black is very simple. It's f5, trying to get something going here. For some reason, I did not see that move. Instead, knight f6 was my move. Now, I do have an idea here. I wanted to find a better placement for this knight. Now, let's talk strategy. In chess, whenever you make a move, you always want to consider checks, captures, attacks first immediately. So are there any checks here? Well, the queen can check the king, but those moves are no good. Are there any captures? Well, I can take this pawn. That's no good. That's no good. That's no good, and that is no good. What about, also, that doesn't do much. What about attacks? Can I attack anything? Well, not immediately. However, I did have the idea of trying to bring this knight all the way to this square right here. So when you don't have any good attacks, captures, checks, and so on, one of the best things you can do in chess is trying to improve the placement of your worst placed piece. Basically saying, which piece do I have which of my pieces is the worst, and how can I find a better square for it? So this knight on d7, if I could get it to, say, g5, it might put some pressure on h3, theoretically. Maybe I could go queen c1 later, threatening some sort of attack on g4 and so on. So that was my idea. It's a little bit slow. f5 was better, but I tried it. So knight f6, and my idea is knight h7, and then g5. So white goes rook b3. I go knight h7, continuing the idea. White goes knight a2. And here, I've got a choice. I can trade rooks here. Rook takes b3 is a playable move. Actually, what does the engine say here? I'm just curious. Yeah, here, the engine says rook takes, and then queen to c8 is the right way forward here, basically intending a fast f5 and then pressuring this pawn here. And if white ever goes g5, then this pawn hangs on h3. So that would have been the strongest idea. And if I had found that, I would have actually had a pretty good attacking game against white, against the Grandmaster. Now, of course, I'm not a GM. I didn't find that in the game. Instead, rook b7, I retreat here, and white goes queen to c3, moving up. Now, here, I decide to trade into an endgame. Again, rook takes, then queen c8 was the right way forward. Instead, I trade rooks and then trade queens. Queen takes, bishop takes. Now, this endgame right here is still technically even, but I'm going to run into some trouble here. Now, what should I be doing right here? It's a very important position. Well, turns out here, my worst placed piece, or at least the piece with the most potential, is perhaps this bishop. Right now, it's sort of a bad light squared bishop, and my idea here should be bishop c8, intending bishop a6 immediately. That way, I can control this giant diagonal right here and really limit white's options. That would have been by far the best idea here for black. Now, I didn't find that. Instead, knight g5 was played in the game, trying to pressure both h3 and f3, but this move is substantially weaker here. White goes bishop d1, a good move, guarding f3. Now, if I go here, I do lose a pawn after knight f3, bishop takes, e takes, then king takes. That is no good. So what else can I do here? King f8, trying to improve my king placement. Now, eventually, white may be able to get a knight on b3, for example, knight to c1, then b3, pressuring this pawn. I'm likely going to lose this pawn, and white does go knight c1. He finds the idea. Therefore, I kind of need to bring the king over all the way to the queen side ASAP, and at this point, I'm going to be down a pawn. I'm sort of defending for dear life here. All right, king e7, knight b3, bishop c8, knight takes, king d7, bishop e2, and then g6, sort of a waiting move, but also setting up the idea of f5. So my idea here, if I sit around and wait, white is just going to slowly squeeze me to death. Therefore, I need some counterplay. I have to go f5. I should have played it earlier in the game with queens on the board, but better late than never. All right, white goes knight b3. And here, the computer says king c7 is the best move. But again, I figured if I wait around long enough, I will be in deep trouble. I went f5 immediately. Now, the reason this is a mistake, and the reason king c7 first is the right move, if I go king to c7 first, then after f5, I can recapture with the bishop, keeping pressure on this pawn on h3. Instead, f5 was played by me right away. White goes knight c1. He could have taken here. G takes f5 is the right idea, forcing g takes. Instead, knight c1 was played. I go king c7. White goes knight to a2. And now knight to h7. I retreat my knight. I'm trying to reroute it to this square right here, applying some pressure on this square. But it turns out, in this position, I missed a really simple way to equalize the game, maybe even get some winning chances here. I still had chances here, despite me messing up so badly in this game. And if you like puzzles, pause the video right now and try to find the idea for black in the endgame. It's a really cool idea. The move here is f4. Okay, get a load of this. First of all, we're obviously threatening the fork. Now, what if white just captures this pawn? Well, if he does that, the move for black is knight to e6. Now, we're threatening this pawn, this pawn right here, but more importantly, we're threatening this pawn, and white has no way to defend that. I'm going to win this pawn. I'm going to get these two mobile pawns on e4 and d5 that could start marching down the board, and once this pawn falls right here, this pawn will also be weak. And from there, I mean, it is just a dogfight in terms of who can push their pawns down the board faster. So I still had chances on move 42. Now, instead, I go knight h7, retreating, a bad move, and white takes on f5. I take back, and white goes bishop g4. And at this point, this bishop has effectively nowhere to go, and my chances of saving the game are quickly running out. I go knight g5, white takes, I take back, white goes knight b4, pressuring c6, and also setting up ideas like a5, a6. Not good for me. I go knight f3, trying to bring the knight into the game somehow. a5, knight d2, a6, knight b1, a7. Here, king b7 is forced. Otherwise, a8 promotes to a queen, so king b7. And now white finds the very simple idea. Knight takes c6. The point being, it's a deflection sacrifice. If I take the knight, the pawn promotes, and the pawn is defended, so I can't do anything here anyway. And here, we have knight c3, knight to e7, knight to b5, and then here, white takes on d5. And at this point, I just resign to white. I'm down 1, 2, 3 pawns in the endgame versus a grandmaster. He's more time on the clock. There's really no point here playing on, so I simply had to resign to the grandmaster. Very well played game by GM Renier Gonzalez. My first time ever playing a grandmaster in online chess. It was very fun. So what did I learn here? Well, I played actually pretty okay in the opening. Let's fast forward here. I took control of the center, went e4, white went bishop g5, threatening the knight. I saw the idea of losing the pawn. I go bishop b4, knight c3, d5, defending. White goes queen b3, setting up a lot of ideas here. I trade, which is good, getting rid of the threat here. White takes back. If he took back with the b pawn, keeping the queen attacking d5 indirectly, knight d7 was the idea, and I would defend. Instead, queen takes, castles, b3. And here, maybe knight d7 was better. That way, after h6, I can recapture with the knight. That would have been easier for my development. Instead, h6, bishop takes, queen takes. And we have e3. And here, I really failed to have a good plan. So I really need to study up on the English opening for black and find a good plan for black in this position. I was just kind of clueless here how to find the best way to proceed. My idea was okay, rook e8, then bishop f5, then knight d7, but overall not the strongest. Rook c1, rook c8, c5 was weak. I went b6, that was very good. b4, took control of the b file, solid stuff. And here I really should have gone h5, g5, queen to e6, starting the attack. There's only so much you can do on the queen side with the space disadvantage. Therefore, I should have been attacking here. And later in the game as well, all the way down to, let's see here. Where did I mess up? This position right here. Here, I should have gone rook takes, queen c8, intending, again, f5 ideas. That would have been the way forward. And I even lost that one chance to save the game right here with the move f4, which after f4, say, e takes, knight e6, I would have pretty good chances. And if white doesn't take there, the idea is, you know, if white goes here, I push, white goes back. And here, I have some chances as well. So I had some decent chances in this game. I just could not convert them. So very well-deserved win by the opponent. And I've got to go back to the drawing board, study this game, and really apply the lessons I learned in my follow-up games in the English and in chess in general. So anyway, Chess YouTube, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please smash that like button and comment down below. Let me know what you think of this new format of me analyzing my own games. I am going to start training again in online chess. I kind of paused for a while, and, you know, my plan here is to keep showing my online games how I'm improving. I think this will help you guys more than anything else I can do right now, is to keep analyzing my own online games for you guys. I mean, I can't really tell you what Magnus Carlsen is thinking, but I can tell you what I'm thinking in my own game. So I think this may help you more in terms of improving than me analyzing even Grandmaster games. Anyway, if you enjoyed this and want to learn directly from me, I do have a free school community right now, and I will be launching a private one-on-one coaching program very, very soon. If you're interested in either of those things, my free school community / course / group coaching program, check the link in the description below. Or if you want to get into my one-on-one coaching program, again, go to my free school community. I'll be messaging you right away to get you onboarded, and when I message you, just mention you're interested in the coaching. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the video, and I really do wish you the best of luck on your chess improvement journey, and I'll see you in the next video.